Hey there, welcome back to Antoinette Reads. If you're new here, I'm Antoinette Reads, and on this channel, we make reading hot again. Whether you're a long-time listener or just stumbling upon this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I post updates and upload schedules. Alright, let's get started. Chapter 6, Coffee. Okay, students, you can pack up your belongings, Professor McGonagall spoke in her clear, stern voice. Hermione snapped out of her daze, looking around to see that the class was over. For once in her life, she hadn't really been concentrating and had only just glanced down at her empty page. Great, she muttered under her breath. Miss Granger, Mr. Malfoy, could you stay behind? McGonagall asked, beckoning them towards her desk. Hermione glanced round at Draco, whose face instantly turned cold. He had been staring at the back of her head intensely all lesson, watching her gaze out the window at the lake. He knew what she was thinking about. He'd been thinking about it too. He should have left Granger to cry and made her hate him. She needed to hate him. His stupid attempt to try and sympathize hadn't really worked in his favor. In fact, it has backfired completely. He wanted nothing to do with her, but now it seemed as if a day didn't pass where she didn't make an appearance. The remaining students poured out of the classroom in a wave of chatter. Leaving the two behind, sat solemnly at their desks. Hermione didn't dare look at Malfoy again, her mind now filled with annoyance. He's trying to confuse you. It's another one of his stupid little games. Hermione and Draco sat down obediently as McGonagall drew 2 chairs before her desk with her wand. Once they were seated comfortably, the woman began. I'd first like to congratulate the pair of you on the success of your tutoring sessions. I understand you've only had 1 or 2, but it seems to have been very effective. She smiled, looking from one glum face to another. After sensing the obvious tension, she coughed and turned to Malfoy. It seems you have picked up on the work very quickly, although it was a small amount to begin with. From the looks of things, I highly doubt you will need any more sessions with Miss Granger. Hermione let out a sigh of relief. She needed some time away from him and to wrap her head around things and get back to normal. She could talk to Ron, get Malfoy out of her head, and finally get back on track with her schoolwork. However, McGonagall continued, there is something else we need to discuss. The girl felt her heart suddenly drop. Did McGonagall know that she and Draco had been up after curfew? Ron could have easily told, although she hoped he wouldn't stoop that low. However, McGonagall didn't seem as if she was about to lecture them. She smiled brightly, looking from one face to another. I have always admired both of your intelligences, but also your quick wits, she spoke. Indeed, it is no surprise the Sorting Hat considered both of you for Ravenclaw. And since you've been getting on rather handsomely recently, I thought now was the perfect time to ask. Professor McGonagall rummaged around in her pocket for a few seconds, furrowing her brow until she eventually clasped hold of something. She removed her hands from her robes and placed 2 badges onto the table before them. Hermione and Draco leaned forward in their seats, gasping in unison. The 2 pins, shining proudly before them, read Head Boy and Head Girl. Hermione blinked. Head Girl? She couldn't believe it. She felt honored, but at the same time a feeling of dread was creeping over her. Now she was going to have to be around Malfoy even more, and having to see him on a daily basis was going to make it difficult not to fuel their old rivalry. Draco, on the other hand, was completely silent, not really giving away any signs of what he was feeling. Horrified, Hermione reckoned. I know this is all very sudden, but I thought the 2 of you were perfect for the roles. What do you think of these? She said, gesturing at the badges. Truth be told, they were pretty impressively made. Each had been modified to match their house colors, Draco's green and silver, whilst Hermione's red and gold. Hermione smiled weakly, nodding her head slightly. "They're lovely, Professor. How often do we have to meet?" Draco cut in sharply. Hermione and McGonagall both blinked at him in surprise. "Pardon?" McGonagall frowned. "You know, how often do I have to see her for meetings or whatever we do?" he muttered. "Oh," she laughed, shaking her head. No, you will be sharing your own small common room where you can take all the time you need to discuss anything." Draco's face turned a deathly shade of white. Hermione, meanwhile, sat open-mouthed, glancing from Draco to the professor. "This is not happening." "2 bedrooms, of course," she remarked. "A sitting area, 2 studies, a bathroom, and a small kitchen area. It really is a privilege. You should be very proud to be offered such an opportunity." "A privilege?" "Well, I have a meeting with Dumbledore momentarily. I hope everything is comfortable for you in there. Your belongings have already been moved inside," she smiled. "Goodbye." The professor left the room, shutting the door on the 2 silent students. Neither one knew what to say to the other. The fact that they would have to see each other every morning and evening, along with classes, had left them rather speechless. "Should we go?" Hermione finally spoke uncomfortably. Draco didn't reply, but sneered, straightening his tie and striding past her in a not-too-pleased fashion. Sighing, Hermione followed him down the hallway and up the stairs towards a smaller corridor. As they walked towards the room, they noticed a large plaque that had been fitted onto the doorway. Hermione squinted her eyes, reading, "Head Boy and Head Girl's Common Room. Head Boy, Draco Lucius Malfoy. Head Girl, Hermione Jean Granger." She took in a sharp breath. Seeing it engraved before her had suddenly made it all too real. It had happened so quickly. Half an hour ago she'd been sad in Transfiguration, planning to go study in the Gryffindor common room, and now she had a brand new one, shared with none other than Draco Malfoy. The door made a creaking sound as Draco pushed it open, revealing their new living arrangement. It was fairly large. There was a sofa and an armchair set in front of a crackling fireplace, making the place feel snug and warm. Everything that McGonagall has described was there. It was perfect. But then there was Malfoy. Hermione glanced sideways at him. Although he was back to his old grouchy self, he too looked rather satisfied with his surroundings. It was too bad he hadn't been put with another boy, or it could have been quite enjoyable. Instead of sparking up a conversation to break the ice, Draco walked leisurely towards another doorway marked Draco Malfoy and swung it open. His eyebrows shot up at the sight before him. It was a bedroom, but nothing like his old room. The walls were a deep green, giving the whole room a dark atmosphere, which the boy rather liked. The large bed under the singular window was draped in silk, with white sheets and dotted with grey cushions. Hermione peeped inside the room, marked with her name. The room mirrored Draco's perfectly, but instead decorated with red and yellow. After exploring a bit more, the two found themselves standing awkwardly in silence. Hermione, who was tired of the situation already, walked past him towards the small kitchen counter. "Tea?" she asked nonchalantly, looking around for a kettle. "I expect they'll have left some stuff around." Draco remained standing stiffly, watching her rummage through the cupboard. "Coffee," he said quietly. Hermione opened the fridge door and pulled out a jug of milk before grabbing 2 mugs, a bag of coffee beans, and a tea bag from the cupboard. Draco sat down in an armchair as she boiled the water, grabbing a paper off the coffee table and flicking through it lazily. He listened to the girl hum to herself as she dotted about the kitchen, stirring the tea bag in the mug and filtering the coffee. And before he knew it, words were falling from his tongue. "How do you know how to do all that?" Hermione frowned, half surprised. He was actually bothering to communicate, but half confused by his strange question. "Make tea?" she asked, furrowing her brow. No, Granger. Perform an unforgivable curse, he sighed. Obviously, make tea. Hermione put the used tea bag in the bin, raising her eyebrow. In case you forgot, which I highly doubt you did, she paused, glancing at her arm, I have muggle parents. I know all this stuff. Draco followed Hermione's gaze down to her forearm. His stomach tightened at the sight of the word mudblood engraved into it. He opened his mouth to say something, but found nothing came out. The real question is, why can't you make a cup of tea? Hermione laughed, quickly avoiding the tension that had risen. Draco, who would have usually snapped something nasty back at this comment, bit his tongue. For some reason, it felt wrong to insult her after what had just occurred. I've always had house elves to do this for me, I guess, he muttered, slinking behind his paper to avoid any eye contact. It's not a big deal. They call you a man of many talents, and you can't even make yourself a cup of tea? Hermione scoffed, bringing 2 mugs over and placing them on the table. Ridiculous, if you ask me. Coffee, he corrected spitefully. Tea is disgusting. I suppose you and coffee have a lot in common, Hermione shrugged, to which Draco furrowed his brow. What's that supposed to mean? Dark, bitter, and absolutely vile, she sniggered. How witty, Draco scowled, but a small smile was noticeably tugging at the corners of his mouth. At least I'm not bland and tasteless. Hermione shook her head, but glanced quickly at the clock. I'm going to get ready for bed, she said, getting up off the couch. Yeah, me too, Draco replied, trudging off to his room and shutting the door. After throwing on a large blue t-shirt and brushing the gel out of his platinum locks, the boy walked back into the main room, rubbing his eyes sleepily. His bed had seemed so comfortable, and he could barely keep his eyes open. But when he finally looked up, they practically bulged out of his head. Hermione was stood, hair pulled back into a ponytail, face bare of makeup in the middle of the room. Draco's eyes glistened, but he quickly shut his open mouth, feeling his face turn red. Why are you blushing? Hermione frowned, glancing over at him. As if, Draco scowled, looking away. I'm off to bed. Oh, me too, Hermione replied. We have a meeting with Dumbledore and a few other professors tomorrow. Sounds liberating. Good night, then. He nodded, feeling this was a more appropriate way to respond before shutting the door behind him. And that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you found this video interesting, comment the channel's mantra, reading is hot, and give it a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. Love you guys. Bye.